Hey, what's up, Riverside? We're continuing our series on the life of Jesus. And let me give you a quick recap since it's been a while since we've started. We talked about the birth of Christ, and we talked about his genealogy and how we can pull great stuff out of that. We considered those years when he was a kid and sort of the lost years. And we talked about what we can learn from that. The last time I cut one of these videos, we even talked about his baptism and how it's so much easier to follow a God who doesn't just ask us to do things, but sets an example himself. Today I'd like to consider an aspect of Christ that I really connect with. You know, when I have something that I'm excited about, I can't help but share it. I can be very gregarious. It's just my personality. And when I'm pumped about something, when I'm excited about something, I got to tell someone. More often than not, it's my friend Suresh. And whenever I caught a new movie, or I've read a new book, or there's something really cool on TV, or I went to a new restaurant, something, I've got to call him and tell him about the experience. And most of the time, it's a real similar thing with him. Something's happening cool in Chicago, man, or he's done something awesome. He gives me a ring, and we share it. Because when we're excited about something, most of us just can't help but talk about it. The Bible records that after Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist, that two of the followers of John the Baptist turned and began to follow Jesus with John's encouragement. One of them was a man named Andrew. And after he had an encounter with Jesus, after he had learned from John and understood that John was pointing to Jesus as the Savior, Andrew had to talk about it. He had to tell someone. It was important for him to share what he had experienced. And so he went and he told his brother. Andrew went and shared the idea, the concept, that he had finally met the Savior that the world was waiting for. And he ran and shared it with his brother named Simon. Eventually, Andrew drug his brother Simon to meet Jesus himself. And in that encounter, Jesus changed his name from Simon to the name that we far more know him as, and that's Peter. Peter, who many people look at as the father of the church. Peter, who people throughout the world believe they're going to meet at the pearly gates. Peter, who is by far the most well-known follower of Christ. Maybe second to Paul, but probably not. Peter, who we know, Peter, who we read about, Peter, who we understand and relate to, never, ever, ever meets up with Jesus, except for the fact that his brother was excited and had to share him with him. You know, I often wonder when I'm around people who supposedly have a relationship with Jesus Christ, who are supposed to have developed that friendship, walking in community with him, I wonder why we don't talk about him that much. You see, if we really do know the guy, the man who has come to save the world, who brings life to us, who brings freedom to us, if we really know him and we're connected, how come we're not a little more excited? And in that excitement, how come we're not sharing and talking about him? Man, if I get a good meal, I want to talk about it. If I've caught a good sporting event on TV, you know, if the Ravens win a football game, you know, I want to talk about it. All I could talk about this spring and into the early summer was the Cavaliers because I thought they were going all the way. I was excited. And yet I say that I know Jesus. I say that I know the answer. The guy who could change everything in my life and yours. How often do I get excited about that? How often am I really talking about him? And not just at church. You know, sometimes I think we show up on Sunday mornings and we sing our couple songs and we say a Bible verse or two and we think, oh, well, I've done it. I've done my connection. Maybe we crack our Bibles and read a chapter or two, maybe fire off a quick prayer. The reality is, if we really know Him, we should be excited. And if we're excited, we should be talking about Him. And so that's my encouragement this week. My encouragement is for us to be like Andrew. My encouragement is for us to go and to share and to talk about how excited, how passionate, how awesome it is to be a part of God's family because we know Jesus. Who are you sharing Him with? Who are you talking to about Him? I'm not talking about beating down doors and passing out tracts. I'm just talking about Him. I'm talking about sharing what you've learned, how you've connected, what you've found out, what you've experienced because of your relationship with Him. I'm talking about the excitement of a new life. A life that has far more adventure, far more thrills, far more wonder and excitement than it ever had without knowing Him. I'm talking about really sharing who Jesus is. That's not a one-time event. That's not a, hey, come to church with me. And if they say no, we move on. That is a lifestyle that says, hey, I'm real excited about what's happened to me. And it all stems from the fact that I met Jesus. So who can you share with? Who are you talking to Him about? Is it your family? Is it your friends? Is it your co-workers? Who are you being real with? Who are you sharing with? Because the reality is, you may just be introducing Jesus to the next person who will impact our country, possibly, and we desperately need it here in Cleveland, the city, maybe the world, because you took the time to be excited about and share who Jesus really was with someone that you care about. So I'm inviting you and I'm challenging you. I want you to consider that, and I want you to respond. I want you to think of some folks that you know that you need to share what God has done in your life with, and get to getting. Because if we're real excited, that's what we would do. Hey, Riverside, I love you. I hope you're having a great week. I invite you to continue to check back at the blog as we share what's going on in our community and our lives. And I will see you on Sunday as we continue our series on Weekend Update. It ought to be a blast. Have a great week, Riverside. See you then.